see. I just stumbled on something called Writers of the Future, a science fiction and fantasy writing contest started by Hubbard in the early 1980s. Apparently, it's an annual affair, and each year an anthology of winning works is published under the title L. Ron Hubbard Presents Writers of the Future. Looks like 34 volumes have been released to date. What, if anything, have you heard about it during your time in Scientology? All right, Writers of the Future contest. There's been a lot written about this, a lot of controversy about it, because it's been considered as a kind of dissemination event for Scientology. And kind of, the Writers of the Future contest and all the administration of it and everything having to do with it is dealt with by Author Services International, which is the organization that is not really supposed to be part of the Church of Scientology, but it is manned with Sea Org members. So obviously it's all about Scientology. But Author Services is an organization that acts as Hubbard's literary agent for all of his fiction works. So it's not really officially connected with Scientology directly. The mission statement of Author Services, or ASI, has to do with promoting L. Ron Hubbard as a fiction writer, and through that promotion, getting people interested in who L. Ron Hubbard was, what his works were all about, and from going and bridging from the fiction work to the nonfiction Scientology work, okay? That's the mainline purpose of ASI, in addition, of course, to the other primary mainline purpose, which is make money through selling Hubbard's extensive library of fiction works. The Writers of the Future contest was something Hubbard suggested be put together, or wanted put together, because he wanted a avenue to give back to the writing community. Hubbard was a writer, and at the end of the day, Hubbard took real pride in his ability and body of work as a writer. He was a prolific writer. I don't happen to like his fiction works, but a lot of people out there do. And he was truly a popular writer from the golden age of science fiction. He was also prolific in many, many different fields of writing. He wrote romance, adventure, western, spy, espionage stories, in addition to science fiction and fantasy works. So, you could find almost anything subject-wise or genre-wise under Hubbard's name or one of his many, many pseudonyms. That's all true. The church talks about that, they promote that, but it's true. I haven't found many lies that the church has told in connection with Hubbard's as a writer, as a fiction writer. So the contest was put together by Hubbard as a way to try to help young authors, just kind of trying to get started, trying to get going, not really heavily published yet. How do you help those guys along? Well, Hubbard wrote a lot of articles and suggestions and advices for writers on how to write. Those issues and information were compiled into packs into packs, and the people who submit to the Writers of the Future contest, they get judged by actual professional writers, not Sea Org staff. And if they, of course, I'm sure that the filtering process involves making sure that these people are not critical of Scientology or L. Ron Hubbard and have not been posting horrible things about him. I'm sure they filter them to that degree. But what they're literally looking for, the professional judges of the contest are looking for actual skill in writing. So they choose, winners. They have an illustrator contest, the Writers of the Future and the Illustrators of the Future. And they'll play on both of those, and the illustrators will do pictures for the anthology works, and the writers, of course, write all the stories. And they put all these together in these collections, and they've been doing it for decades now. And really, in the end, I don't know that there's a whole lot that's really super nefarious or creepy about it. A lot of authors who took part in the contest have been interviewed or talked to about it, said, hey, did you know about the Scientology connection? Sometimes they get through the entire contest and don't even realize that it's connected to Scientology. So that kind of tells you that during the process of submitting their stories, being judged, going to the final event, going through the seminar and workshop where they read about all of Hubbard's stuff and get some tutoring and mentoring from professional writers, during that whole process, there's not a lot of work being done on them to try to get them into Scientology. It's mostly a goodwill gesture on the part of Scientology and a part of L. Ron Hubbard to try to help young writers out. I know that is all kind of the PR line or the shore story that Scientology uses, but in this particular case, I happen to think that it's mostly true. So, if somebody were to come into that contest and start asking about Scientology and wondering about it, I am positive they'd answer all the person's questions and try to get him to do a personality test and get on board with Scientology. But that I think it would be the exception, not the rule. I think they mainly leave these writers alone to just kind of do the contest and try to generate goodwill and good PR for Scientology and for L. Ron Hubbard through this work. So that's what I can tell you about it. And everything I just said, I learned while I was in Scientology. This is not new information to me. We talked about this all the time. I actually, because I was in LA, I went over to Author Services and heard some readings and stories over there. I've been in that building, and I think that's what they're up to. So that's what I can tell you about that. And there you go.